Next on the agenda,
we have wrestling. What do you want to talk about wrestling?
all right. So this has been a big weekend for wrestling, or last couple weekends actually. Tyler doesn't watch a whole lot of it. So first, what I want to cover is you probably want to know why I even watch wrestling.
Well, before you get into that, I did watch wrestling growing up from whatever year till about, I think it was probably 18, when I started driving a car, so 16 or 17. And at that point, your interests change. But even then, like, when I was watching it, Stone Cold was over with. All the ones that I grew up were already, like, washed up. You could tell that the tide was turning for these new people to come in, and I wasn't really ready for that. Plus, I was more worried about, going to work or, doing whatever I wanted to do, because I thought I was a big deal, whatever. But anyway, wrestling felt to me like it was like the coolest thing on the planet, and it died. And then, like, what was it, 2015 or 16, I went to a bar in Nashville, and guys like, you ever watch wrestling? I'm like, actually I used to. And he goes, why don't you watch it? I was like, well, it's dumb. Like, he goes, well, no, you don't understand, it changed. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I can't, I don't have the out. And this guy was shit-faced, but still, he was like adamant and passionate about it. He was like, wrestling is crazy, you need to watch it. So I have opened my eyes to what he is about to say.
Yeah, so I was in the same boat. So, like, back in the Stone Cold days, that's first of all, anybody who says they never watched wrestling is lying.
True.
So I get that a lot. I'll be out in town, they're like, oh, you're watching wrestling? You're watching wrestling pay-per-view? Like, Survivor Series? What is that? You know damn well what that is. Everybody, when they were a kid, watched wrestling. If you didn't, you're lying. So, like, back in Hulk, everybody knows who Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, the Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man. Everybody knows all that stuff. But that was from the early 80s. Then, they called the Attitude Era. You had Stone Cold. Undertaker was still around, still kicking. Undertaker just now stopped wrestling. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, stuff like that. So I actually quit watching, like he was saying, about the same time, for like when Stone Cold got beat by Bret Hart, and like one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. Like, he had him in the sharpshooter and didn't tap. Stone Cold's face is all bloody, and then he just passes out. It was like an In Your House pay-per-view. It was crazy. So after Stone Cold started drying out, and then The Rock started drying out, I quit watching for, 10, 15 years?
Wow.
Probably. So my buddy EV, he still watched wrestling. He never stopped. So since then, the WWE Network came out, and he's like, he comes over, on occasion, comes over and drinks beers, we'll cook out or whatever. He's like, hey, man, he's like, the Royal Rumble's coming up this Sunday. This was like 3 years ago. And he said, do you have the network? And I was like, no. I was like, I don't feel like paying for a streaming service. Because that's when streaming service really just started kicking. And I said, I really like the Royal Rumble, though. I was like, why the hell not, Yeah. WWE Network's really cheap. It's not much per month.
And for those who don't know what the Royal Rumble is, or if you're not familiar with wrestling, imagine every minute?
So it's 30 people in a ring. Every 2 minutes.
2 minutes, sorry.
Yeah. It starts with two guys at the beginning, and then every 2 minutes another person comes in. So you can have up to 30 people in the ring at the same time, all fighting. The only way to be eliminated is be thrown over the top rope, and your both feet have to hit the floor, and then this goes on until everybody's been tossed over except one person.
It's like being an oversized elevator.
Yeah. The Royal Rumble, to me, was the greatest pay-per-view ever made. Because you never know who's coming out. Every 2
Booker
minutes.
T came out, that Diesel showed up. That was cool.
Yeah, every 2 minutes, this thing goes off, goes, burn, and then everybody's waiting, then somebody's music hits, and then they run out there. It's freaking crazy. Like, it's the most exciting because you don't know what to expect. So we watched it. I was blown away. I was like, wow, wrestling's gotten good again. Because I haven't watched it like 10, 15 years. And I was like, man, this is awesome. So then I kept the WWE Network, and I've been watching it ever since. I'm really huge into it now. Now there's basically 3 brands of WWE. You've got Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. NXT is actually what you call like the Bush leagues or the minor leagues. It used
Heard
to
that
be,
NASCAR.
yeah. It used to be. So it's on Wednesday nights. It used to be only on the WWE Network, so you had to watch it through the streaming service. But since then, in the last year, they put it on USA, and you can actually watch it on Wednesday nights. The action is straight up better than Raw and SmackDown by far. These people are hungry. They're beating the living hell out of each other. Usually everybody leaves bleeding in the match. They recently just had a pay-per-view called War Games, which is basically, I think you've seen a War Games.
I've seen one. It's pretty. I was just getting into it, and the first thing I see is basically, not to ruin it, but
no, good.
You have a cage match. Is intense enough. I mean, I remember Mankind being thrown from Undertaker through a cage into the ring.
Hell in a Cell.
Hell in a Cell. Yeah. Okay, times that by 2. They're next to each other. So I'm like, wrestling stupid, and I sit down and watch it, like, and you can't get up because you're just like, there's 2 cages. You have to figure out what's happening next. So
yeah, War Games was actually back in the WCW days, like years ago, like, that was probably 10, 15 years ago when it came out.
Yeah.
Or whenever WCW, before they went defunct, and WWE bought them out. But long story short, yeah, it's 2 rings, 2 full-size wrestling rings side by side, and then there's a steel cage around it. So basically, what they do is they start out with 2 people, kind of like the Royal Rumble, but it's 2 teams of people. It's 2 teams of 4. One team's in a shark cage, another team's in a shark cage at the top of the ramp, like when you first walk in from their entrances. First 2 people start, they wrestle for 5 minutes. Then after the first...
In one cage or both cages?
In both cages.
In both cages, okay.
Yeah, the 2 rings are put together. The entire cage is over both rings.
Okay.
So it's actually one huge cage.
Got it.
After the first 5 minutes, another person comes in. And then after like 3 or 2 minutes, it goes down. I think it's 3 minutes after, I don't know the specifics. I'd have to look at it. But every 3 to 2 minutes, another person comes in until everybody's in the ring. When both teams are totally in the ring, War Games starts. They ring the bell, and then whoever wins by pinfall or submission, their team wins. But there's no rules in this match other than you can't leave the cage. If you leave the cage, you're disqualified. However, you can jump off the cage into the ring, which Io Shirai has done it twice in the last War Games. So they have a men's match and a women's match now. We're back. Before they only had a men's match. Royal Rumble's the same way now. Now they have 30 men and women Royal Rumble, and they're just as entertaining as the men's, if not better. So the War Games went crazy. It was nuts. Basically, you had Io Shirai's team, which is her. Actually, Shotzi Blackheart was the captain. Her, Ember Moon, Io Shirai, and Rhea Ripley against Candice LeRae, Raquel Gonzalez, Dakota Kai, and Toni Storm. And they started throwing tables in their chairs, man. People were busted wide open. It was nuts. Fantastic match. Probably one of the best matches I've seen in a long time. The men's War Games match is Undisputed Era against Pat McAfee, the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne, he's from the UK. He's probably one of the most badass wrestlers in the world. And then the tag team champions, Oni and the other guy. And I feel bad I can't remember his name. But phenomenal. It was just crazy. So, like 2 weeks ago, we had Survivor Series, and then we got War Games. It's just been a wrestling's been nuts lately.
So it seems like there's not really any like seasonal patterns to it. It's just like every week there's a new event.
Well, you've got Raw and SmackDown.
And it's completely different. It's not like the one before.
Yeah, you got Raw and SmackDown and NXT during the week, and then like once a month there's a pay-per-view.
Okay.
But you watch it on the network, it doesn't really cost anything. I mean, you just pay I think it's like $10 a month for WWE Network, but you get like every pay-per-view. Instead of paying $60 for a pay-per-view, you're only paying your monthly fee of $10 a month.
Yeah.
So there's no reason not to do it. Plus, they got all kinds of other content and stuff, which is crazy. The network's like the greatest thing ever if you're an old school wrestling fan, because they go back and they show every pay-per-view that's ever been done. Like you can go back to WrestleMania 1. You can watch the Royal Rumbles from 20 years ago, which is what I actually went back and watched all of them. It's just, if you like wrestling at all or you want to get into it, just get the network, watch it all. It's crazy. NXT by far is just unreal, the talent that they have. But you can see I get really excited about talking about wrestling.
Well, and you answered what I was about to get into. I was about to ask you if somebody like me, somebody who's used to the old school stuff back in like the mid '90s, could I, rewind it and watch it? You said that there is like a menu or
yeah, it's built really well. You just as soon as you pull up WWE Network on your smart TV, or you can do it on your phone or whatever, it gives you a menu. You can pick pay-per-views, you can pick interviews, original series. Like they got this one called Ride Along, where they put wrestlers in a car while they're driving down the road and they talk and bullshit, and it's pretty cool.
Okay.
They've got these episodes called 24, where you can follow somebody over. It's supposed to be 24 hours, but it's actually a few days, and it's like a biography of what they're doing, like if they've just won a championship, or how they started as a amateur wrestler and became really famous. Like there's all kinds of crazy stuff.
Okay.
Stone Cold's got one called the Broken Skull Sessions, where he's actually got 2 interviews with the Undertaker right after he retired, and man, that's some good stuff. Like it's like the most popular thing everybody's watching.
Okay, cool.
But
wrestling can be still awesome.
yeah, it's definitely hit its stride again.